What? What the frick? We started streaming on Twitch. What the heck? All right. What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are having a good day. I know we are having our big holiday tomorrow, Thanksgiving. So for everybody who is going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, super excited for you. Kelsey's like, you're supposed to be doing. She said you're on Pop Culture Poppy. I know that was a mistake. I don't know why it does that. Happens sometimes. First of all, let me go ahead and you guys are on the screen. Okay, you're on the screen, and I love it because it's translucent. You won't be able to see it when there's a white background, but you can see it on everything else. We got some news. So I did see Monica is here. Thanks to Monica, we are doing a giveaway for Christmas, before Christmas. So right here are 4 gift cards, okay? 2 are going to be for our members only, and 2 are going to be for everyone in our community. They are $25 each. This is all gifted from Army Mom Monica. She also sent me some amazing Army stamps to send to you guys. So I'm super excited for you. I cannot wait. You guys know I absolutely love giveaways, and do just huge shout out to Monica. Thank you so much for sending that to the P.O. box and giving everyone an opportunity to get something for Christmas. I just feel like that's so kind of you. So we're going to be having a big discussion tonight. I want to get into a conversation about Elizabeth Smart. So Elizabeth, if you have not heard her story, it is unbelievable. I wanted to start a series with you guys about surviving. Let me see if I can move our chat out of the way and put it over here so you guys can see a little bit better. It can be right above my head. That's completely fine. And it didn't really fix anything, did it? I gotta make it a little bit smaller. Sorry, guys. We'll fix it, I promise, when we go into our next part. So Elizabeth Smart is an amazing person, and I watched her story. I've heard her name before, just so you know. So that is how, like, before anything happened with my family, I never listened or paid attention to true crime. Never knew what it was. Really, like, I knew the genre, but it also wasn't as, like, I don't know what the word would be, but it wasn't as well known, I guess, because we didn't have as much information spreading, like before Instagram, starting to sound old, before all the social media sites and TikToks and like awareness of other people's stories. You really only knew like very, very, very big names, right? Growing up, the only person I knew was O.J. Simpson, like, who had ever committed a crime or not committed a crime. And that's just what it was. So this was back in 2002, and there's movies about her story. I don't want to just like go through her story too quickly, but I just want to give her whole message is a huge part of what we do here, and just getting to know her story alone was an amazing thing. So first off, I want to show you this. This is her video that she participated in. Looks like a documentary style. Unfortunately, there's not a second part to this. So it's called Kidnapped at 14. Elizabeth Smart Breaks Her Silence, Part 1. She narrates and tells you everything going on alongside with them giving scenes. This is what I watched because I like to hear from the person who was involved. I like to know what they went through, and I want to hear their story because, like we've always talked about with media, you just never know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're going to change the story for their own narrative. You just don't know unless you hear from them. So I want to start out by saying she was 14 years old when she was in her bedroom at night, and she woke up to a knife to the neck and hearing a man's voice tell her to be quiet, and if she's not quiet, that she will be unalived. She is led through her house, taken down the stairs, and led into the literal wilderness in her pajamas. And she has no idea where she's going. She has no idea what's going on. And this is how this whole nightmare began. So Elizabeth was abducted at her home at age 14, held captive by a man named Brian David. Now, I had heard her name again, right? Going in to do my research, lo and behold, she just happens to also be LDS. This is in Salt Lake City in 2002. And I don't know how in the world this always happens. I promise you there's no like, oh, let me look for LDS stuff. I'm telling you, like, it really is insane how I was telling this to Kelsey earlier, how this I always end up somehow being more like interested in something or hearing a name or something and then going in and I find this stuff out later. So Elizabeth was obviously LDS, lives in Salt Lake City, has an LDS family, a big family, brothers and sisters, everything. This man, okay, comes around, and Brian David Mitchell comes around and asks for work from her dad. When he comes up, I think he was basically just came up and asked for work. He didn't ask for money. And the mom said, yeah, you can come work for us. So he came to the house. Elizabeth, according to Elizabeth, said for a little bit. And basically was there for a short amount of time. And in that amount of time, apparently he made plans. Well, he leads Elizabeth out all the way to a camp, okay? And leads her to a camp where she is kept for a long time. But the weirdest part was the first thing that this man says to her is that one of the first things he says to her after she's in the camp is he said that they were sealed. He was told by an angel that they were sealed. So this goes into very closely what we've covered before with my family, with a lot of these other cases, and what we talk about with spirituality. And I want to stop here just for a second to hit on this specific point. Any spiritual manipulation always starts with these radical people who immediately tell you that everything that you're experiencing is from their revelation privately. And that's the biggest problem is it's always a private revelation. It's never public. You never hear the chimes of the bells. You never have an experience. You never get an answer to prayer. You never have any of that happen. What happens is that the person comes to you personally and says, I've had this revelation and God told me that we're going to have to do this and this is what this is. So I'm not going to downplay what Elizabeth went through. She is a survivor. I want to jump in a little bit more. It's pretty, I hope you guys understand. And I always like to tell you these do have trigger warnings. She's very honest about her position. Again, I highly recommend you go and watch this video. It is unbelievable. I would love for a story perspective, having her voice be the main voice that walks you through her perspective and then her family's is the best way to understand someone's story. So I want to go through this part real quick just to kind of walk you down. But yeah, he said, I have a knife to your neck. Don't make a sound. Get out of bed and come with me. And then he says, or I will unalive you and your family. The kidnapper, a man named Brian David Mitchell, let out of the smart house and marched her for hours to the forest. So before she even got there, she's being marched on foot through the forest in the middle of the night. 14-year-old girl. Mitchell believed that he was a prophet named Emmanuel. Now, if you understand, that's very significant. We're going to get to this. But he performed a bizarre wedding ceremony also as a polygamist. Okay. What happened was when she got there, he was immediately trying to, and again, like I said, trigger warnings for all of you. I'm not going to use the words, but he wanted to consummate their fake marriage. And obviously she's even was like, well, I've never even had my period. I don't know how, like, I thought she was 14 years old, right? And her innocence is very apparent. And she said, I don't think you can even have sex unless you've had a period. Like, that's where her mind was. That's how innocent she was. And he obviously did not care. So this man, as a prophet, let's be very clear always, a prophet of God, goes ahead and consummates the marriage. And I'm gonna be honest with you. This whole story made me cry, and it's just so hard because we've been really hitting on this topic for the last couple of, I don't know how many videos, but to hear about these predators that specifically target young women. And for some reason, we're also stumbling on these cases where the predator uses God or a version of God to give themselves an out, right? To absolutely filth the name of God is always, worse. This is why we have to spread words like this, so that way anybody who says anything like this is immediately, we just know, and other people can hear this as well. She did everything she could to stop him, but he was a grown man versus a 14-year-old girl. Mitchell, and so he had a wife, by the way, who was completely part of this, completely helping in this way. And she just very weird accomplice, because her thing was she seemed to be following him and letting him kind of lead her still as a prophet, which I always think is weird. I don't understand the submissiveness to a prophet like this, because you have to have some sense that this isn't the right thing to do. And so they kept her captive with, and I might even show you this piece if I can find it, but when they dramatize, I don't want to give her story away, but there's a part where it just kind of shows where the way she's walking around the camp. Maybe never mind. I don't know if I can find it fast enough. Right here. I just had that. Come on. If you could see. So she was chained to this like thing, bro. She was chained to this right here. Chained around her leg. And then there was a thing above her that allowed her to move in a certain way. Right there. That thing. This piece right here. Okay. And I want you to see this.
6 weeks having a steel cable wrapped around my ankle.
Steel cables around her ankles. And then above her was the only way she could move around the camp, is that they set up another steel cable above her to keep her captive, so that way she wouldn't leave anywhere.
6 weeks of never moving more than a few feet beyond the center of the camp.
It's around her ankles 24/7. Again, I don't want to give away her entire story, but horrible condition. And again, on top of this, the entire time she's going through all of this abuse. She's being completely mistreated in every way you could possibly think of. And she's being told that she's there because God wants her there. And one of the things I think she really hits on in this piece that I'd love for you guys to watch, by the way, it's very hard to watch, but we'll get into the end. I don't want to spoil anything. So, but the point is, she's questioning, how can you use God? And I believe in God, and you're using a lot of the same verbiage. He's using the LDS language, and here he is, completely doing everything opposite of God. And so that was very interesting to me, because that's exactly what I thought. And in no way, shape, or form am I comparing my situation to hers. What I am saying is, it's very confusing when people that, especially when you're younger, to think that someone who's good or using God language is doing such horrible things. I just want to put that out there. I thought that was a very interesting part of it. But she was scared. She was shocked, petrified. And one of the things that's even crazier is she started to accept her situation in a sense. The intensity of this story is insane, because what happened is they decide at some point that they're going to leave the camp and go into town. They're going to go into town, and they're going to go to Salt Lake City. Well, when they go to Salt Lake City, if you can see this piece right here, they put this over them. So she looks like
Ben,
this.
I remember thinking, why aren't you looking at me?
We started making regular
So
trips down to Salt
this
Lake.
is the worst part about her story. The worst part about her story to me personally. Whoops. The worst part about her story personally was that she was this close to being saved multiple times, but she had been so abused for such a long time that she had the fear deep into her, like to the point where she couldn't break free. So two things happened that were very interesting that people were confused with after and kind of theorized and thought about. And the confusion came from a place of, they said, well, there was a party and I guess the prophet, let's call him the prophet, was invited to the party and he took her and he's saying, that's my daughter, even though that's his wife, 14-year-old girl, by the way, and his real wife, who's a psychopath as well. They go to a party, like basically a adult frat party. And in the documentary or whatever this would be, this in the series piece, some of the people who were at the party are on the interview and they're talking about how they're sobbing and they think, how did I miss this? How did I not know it was her? Like, why didn't I press more? Like, it's just that guilt. And we talked about that the other day, just that guilt of like, what could I have done? How is this my fault? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? That's kind of the initial thought you'd have. What was so crazy is at one point they're in a library and a cop comes up to check in on them. And she's standing there and, there's a cop right in front of her. And she's wearing her mask and just, eyes looking right through, and she's not saved. She goes back and stays with them. At the end of the day, what happens, and I don't want to brush through her story because it's not fair of me to do that, but I want to hit on the ending because it's so important, and this is where this whole video really comes to life, in my opinion. A cop pulls up on her and even asks her name. This is from the movie depiction as well too, but she gives her fake name, and then eventually she gives her real name and they know it's her. She gets to go home to her family. And when I tell you that through that entire time, the psychological battle that she fought, the physical battle that she fought, and the fact that she knew that she was just trying to survive it all and then got to go home and be with her family. The statistics of that happening are very, very, very low, as all of us know. I think you have about a 24-hour period to like maybe the 72-hour gap where lost children specifically are deemed, like it gets harder and harder and harder as time goes by. Well, we're talking about months on end that she was gone. And she's not even that far away from her family. Like, I've heard some really, really crazy stories about how a lot of times these people aren't even that far from their families, right? And that's the scariest part, is Elizabeth was not far from her family in a sense because she walked there personally. So there were search parties. And again, I highly recommend you go watch this. If I could watch this entire little episode with you about her, I would. It's incredible. It's not just moving. It's insane. And, at the end of all of this, Elizabeth comes out as a voice for victims and starts to talk about being strong and kept her faith. And when I tell you that this is just, a God over odds situation, like we talked about before, most people don't make it out of this ever. And I mean, she is a voice, and that should show us. And her whole thing is, by the way, you should hear the way that she talks is very simply that she says, just don't give up. Don't give up on anything. Don't give up on your life. Don't give up on, yourself, and don't just think your situation's hopeless. None of us have been in the same situation she has. If anybody in the world has, it's the smallest percentage ever, and I hope it's zero, but unfortunately it's not. But For someone like that to have survived such horrendous acts done to them, completely helpless, and to be positive at the end of the day, is the story of tonight. I had to obviously fill you in on what she went through. I busted through that, by the way. And I hope I never do any disservice on her story. She deserves to have her voice heard. And I love a lot of what my research led me to is that she's very clear about using her voice, and it's brave. And when you watch her, it's brave because you can tell she's worked through the problem and the trauma, and here she is on the other side. So I just wanted to shed some light on her. I know a lot of you probably have heard her story again, but I mean, what an example. What an example of a strong person who went through hell, who's being positive and continuing to spread that positivity towards others. You know, like when we talk about crime, 99% of the time, that's not the outcome. And I keep coming back to that just so you guys understand, like, oh man, I empathize with her family so deeply because when they're explaining what they were going through in that missing phase, my heart just dropped because I know exactly what that feels like. That feeling of helplessness and not knowing where to even start looking and not even know where to go and not know what to do and where your loved one could be. It is the worst mind game. I don't think I can put into context what that feels like. How you don't sleep, you don't function, your body starts to physically react to it. And I don't want this to get back into me, but when I tell you guys this stuff, it's because I want you to understand from a case perspective what that feels like on the helplessness side. And I remember those feelings watching their family. And when you're looking at that TV and you're just praying, oh my gosh, dude. You guys, I don't know if you guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys know obviously the case, but when Lori was supposed to produce the children, I just envisioned Tylee and JJ walking through that door. Like I just had such a vivid thought. Like I just had such a thought of how it was going to go down. And when she didn't, that feeling of the helplessness, like you just keep trying to tell yourself like, I'm going to have faith. I'm going to have faith. I'm not going to allow this to happen. But there's so many people who have missing loved ones. And that's what I want people to understand in this context too. You can't do anything about it until you know. And some people will never understand that, but you don't just come to a conclusion. I don't care if it's been years. You can't conclusively say, oh, I know they're gone. Even if you feel it in your gut, you can't just come to that place and say, oh, I know they're gone. Like maybe a part of you does, but there's just no acceptance until you know, which is why it's so important to find them regardless. And I hate to say that, but it's the truth. The families need the closure because if you never know, I feel as if it's a worse hell because I can't tell you what that feeling is like. Your stomach just feels like a bottomless pit of anxiety and there's no ending, right? And I saw they were going through all of the media stuff, trying to get, please, and people showed up and they're searching. And I just really felt for that family because on that other side, nothing is comparable to what Elizabeth went through. But on the other side, the family's going through hell on top of that. And I cannot tell you to see a young woman be reunited with her family. It was so beautiful. And I'm going to cry because it's just so rare and I'm so grateful for her family and her. And what an amazing example she is to all of us. And I want to say that today because the reason we're having this conversation today is because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. And tomorrow is the day where it's be thankful. And I remember I'm just going to say it the way I said it back then. Just so you guys know, okay? When it was 2020, I did a video on this channel a very long time ago in 2020. But when I first thought about that, I said, I'm just going to say it the way I said it, okay? I said, fuck Thanksgiving. I'd never want to have another thought of a family gathering. And I say that to you because that's how raw my heart was. Like, I didn't want anything to do with gatherings of family. Like, it was just a reminder of hell. That's all it was. It's like, oh, I'll never get to do that again. F everybody in this. Like, they're all gone. I don't ever get that again. And that was just part of that, was that bitterness of like, I lost what I wanted and had. And then I made a video later because my heart really softened. And I thought, you need to be really grateful for what you have and the time you had with people. A big part of what I've learned lately, and I feel like I'm trying to share, is remember to be in the moment. Like, one Christmas, I'm with my entire family, and the next Christmas, they're all gone. Like, it was that fast. Not one, but everybody. My entire family would never, ever recover from that. I tell you this because I still want you to have hope, and I gave you two different ways to look at hope. Elizabeth got to reunite, and I'm so grateful for her and her family. I didn't get to reunite with my family, but that doesn't mean that that the same message Elizabeth has is something I echo a lot, and I think we're very similar minded in that way, is don't give up and take it all in the moment and trying to help each other not just survive but thrive and get past just the initial shock of what you're going through. And I know it's hard to be thankful when your life is not going well. I know that. Trust me. I'm not telling you to shove it off and be thankful. That's BS. Oh, I should be thankful even though I'm depressed, or I should be thankful even though I'm having a hard day, or, there's been Thanksgivings where we couldn't afford to have Thanksgiving. We had spaghetti on Thanksgiving. I'm not trying to sound dramatic or that I had it worse, because other people have had it a lot worse than me on Thanksgivings. But I am simply saying being grateful for everything that we have is all about choice. And Elizabeth made a choice, and she tells her story. She empowers others, and there's nothing that she could do in her life, in my personal opinion, that is more powerful than coming around and helping other people with their traumas and see that you can survive. Very important. So I want to read this because this is the hopeful part, okay? Remarkably, Smart managed to return to a relatively normal life shortly after rejoining her family. Only weeks after her return, she hiked with her family to the camp where Mitchell had taken her for 9 months. Before, I felt great. I felt triumphant, she said. I don't think it's worth spending time in the past. Couldn't have said that better myself. She added, it's not something I think about. If I feel like I want to retell my story to someone, I will, but I don't have to. I don't talk about it much. I really don't care to. But she did tell her story, which is good. I don't know when she said this. Smart soon returned to the classroom and reassumed her favorite activities. After graduating high school in 2006, she enrolled into BYU and to study music performance. Additionally, she became an activist on behalf of kidnapping survivors and child victims of violence in SA, recounting her inspirational story in interviews with Katie Couric and Oprah Winfrey, and eventually becoming a noted public speaker. Smart has also helped to author the United States Department of Justice 2008 Handbook for Kidnapped Survivors, You Are Not Alone, The Journey from Abduction to Empowerment. That just makes me want to clap. How amazing is that? That is what it's all about right there. That's what it's all about, man. This happened so long ago, and I'm just like so freaking proud. In 2009, Smart moved to Paris for her church. LDS missionary trip appeared interrupted by a return to the U.S. testifying against Mitchell. Oh, wow. I was in Paris. Wow, that's insane. But she has a book. It's just insane, man. I just like to go through that and come out and continue to be positive and strong. please just like, if you're interested in her story, there's something free on YouTube right here. You can watch it. I don't know why I don't have part 2. I was heartbroken over that. I had to do a bunch of other research too, but when I saw that she spoke, it was interesting. I watched this as well. If you guys want to learn how the Green Beret teaches a Navy SEAL, I'm just kidding. It's just funny to see all these things on the side. But this is on Biographies YouTube channel. I'll put this in the link later, but this whole thing is like her literal look. This is her explaining what happened, and it's incredible. And I really am grateful, like, for our community. I'm grateful for what we have, and I'm grateful for you guys. And, you know, I'm not gonna overstate the fact that this has been an amazing support system for me. And you guys have really, really been there for me. And I really appreciate that. And I tell you that all the time. But our community has been a safe place for me. And I never thought that could happen on the internet, honestly. I never thought that I'd ever have that in my life again. And I think at one point I accepted total darkness of never talking about my story, never sharing my voice, never going on YouTube or Netflix or anything ever again. I accepted all of that. I was just going to be this completely out of the, never go to the trials, and I was going to see how long I could survive. That's just literally what I thought. I was just going to see how long I could survive it. And at the end of the day, I don't know, man, just everything changed. And my boss really pushed me to do this channel. And I just remember I just went for it with no plans on what I was going to talk about, what it was going to be like. Oh, and I just tell you that because that hope didn't exist. And now here we are at almost the end of 2025. And I'm just grateful that, man, I'm going to freaking ball, bro. Give me a second. I got to hold it together. Just for a second. Our community has provided a support for me that understands what my family situation was. But you don't just see me as that. And I really want to say thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for not seeing me as one thing. Thank you for not seeing me as Colby, Lori Vallow's son, or Colby, the last son person standing, or anything. Like, you guys have helped me with the healing journey myself, and have my own identity and realize that I don't have to be that. And so I think I have more than I could ever say that I'm grateful for you guys. And the fact that this exists and that we've created this together, I think you should be proud of that too. You're part of something big. And I know that. And it doesn't matter like how many people we have here, subscribers. Like, all that matters is it gets to the right people. And that's why I tell you guys, if you have people you know this stuff will help, please share it with them. That is because I want more people to know that they have a freaking community here. And like, man, I'm so grateful for you guys. So thank you for being a huge part of my life, our community. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I'll be back with you very soon. I'll be checking in with you tomorrow. And we'll do another hangout, maybe Friday night too. We can just do a hangout and just talk. I had to watch Dancing with the Stars last night, but I didn't see who won. So I found out this morning from Kelsey. So we'll sit there, talk about your guys' Thanksgiving. Just remember to have hope, man. Like, hope is the candle in the pitch black. It might be very small, but as long as you hold out for it, it's there. And that, to me, is also the message of Jesus. You're in your dark times. You just keep going, because sometimes you need help. And this is what this community should be, is help. And we've created the thing I thought that I never thought would exist, is people supporting each other through the hard stuff. Crazy. Beautiful, crazy, amazing. Thank you guys. No, I don't know. The word thank you doesn't even doesn't even touch how I feel. So bottom of my heart, thank you. And yeah. If you guys were not here in the beginning of the stream, Monica is amazing. I hope she's still here. Just want to give her a big shout out. She is Santa Claus this year. Don't tell the kids. And we're going to be doing a giveaway just one more time so you guys know if you're not here. We got 2 going to the community and then 2 for all of our members only. We'll be doing I'm going to do a better poll or whatever we did last time. We'll do a better version of that. So you guys do have time to grab some gift cards, and that way you guys can grab something before Christmas. I just think that was so thoughtful of Monica, so thank you for doing that, and that just shows you how amazing and real our community is. Last thing I'll say, I know I'm ranting, but I just want to say thank you to all of you. If you don't know, first of all, I am wearing pants. Brandon used to always ask me that. Brandon Kuhn, who comes in our chat when he can, always asks me if I'm wearing pants. I'm wearing pants. Give me 1 second. You're going to watch this. I haven't shown you guys this in a while. This right here is every single letter and every single thing that anybody's ever sent to the P.O. box, other than like the stuff like, you know, like our custom water cups or anything like that. Just so you guys know, like I have everything. When we get more space in the studio and we put some stuff up, I'm going to have things in the background again. We've talked about that. But I mean, every single thing you've ever sent, every letter stays right here. So it means a lot to me. Hope you know that. It's accessible and I can grab it at any point. It's in a clear box because I bought the second shoebox and this just took the cake. So I hope you know that. Just wanted you to know. I always forget to show you it. And it just means a lot to me. I hope you know that. So nothing you guys say or do just goes unnoticed. I have everything there and save it. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Any of you guys who are interested in our more light-hearted stuff, I can even pull this up right here. Here's our pop culture poppy channel. We're working on the Grease video. I might just say F it. This was our stream we just did on accident, by the way. But we've been playing Fallout over there. So if you guys are interested in like just coming and hanging out and popping in, we've had a few people just come in and literally just watch and have fun with it. So, but I appreciate you guys and love you. Thank you for being here. Have a great, happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you very soon. Love you guys, man.